19 after 9 exactly. This is News and Views right here on Salam Media, and let's look at the situation in Ethiopia. Now, the year-long fighting between the federal government troops and the Tigrayan rebels has intensified in recent days, and the rebels are threatening to march onto the capital. If that happens, what is the situation going to look like, and what can we expect uh, uh, Abiy Ahmed to say to the people, and really, how serious is this? To talk to us about it is Ebrahim Fakude. He is Senior Research Fellow at Africa Asia Dialogues. Assalamu alaikum, welcome.
Wa alaikum salam.
How serious is the situation, Ibrahim?
Well, the situation is very serious, but there's a lot of misinformation and propaganda at the moment from the side of the rebels. We know that on Friday, 9 rebel groups, some smaller, very small rebel groups, some of them have not been in existence for quite some time in Ethiopia, signed a pact with Tigrayan People's Liberation Front in Washington, vowing to join forces and march towards Addis Ababa and to force the government of Abiy Ahmed to relent and then take over the government. So that's where we're at the moment. So outside that process, we still have the fight continuing in Tigray, which started in November last year after the members of the Ethiopian National Defense Force were attacked by the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front. So that's the standoff we find ourselves in. But since then, there's been a lot of external actors who have also entered the fray, including the Americans, who are also been accused of siding with the TPLF, and notwithstanding that the TPLF is actually a rebel group. Instead of countries like America siding with the government of Ethiopia, they've since been accused of siding with TPLF, and which has created problems and tensions between America and Ethiopia. Also on Friday, the Americans issued a statement calling on all its members, all its citizens in Ethiopia to leave the country. So that's where we stand right now.
Okay, now Abiy Ahmed has dismissed that coalition formation that you've just talked about, all those splinter rebel groups or these newer groups that have come about. He has said it's a publicity stunt and said that most of the groups involved don't have any traction. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you remember Ethiopia was governed, for a very long time by a coalition. And the groupings that have signed this pact, none of them formed that coalition in the past. The only biggest party that formed the coalition, which is at the moment anti-government, is the TPLF. So it is argued that one of the organization is called the Oromia Liberation Army, which has been fighting for recognition in Ethiopia for some time. So those are the organizations that are at the moment involved in this. But none of them are really big enough to be taken serious by the government of Ethiopia.
However, it is creating huge problems within the country because obviously you have incidents of civil unrest, ethnic violence issues are occurring without warning, and the situation may escalate further and may cause supply chain shortages, communication blackouts, travel disruptions. Uh, and these are the reasons why the US Embassy is pulling out non-essential diplomats from the country, as are other countries like Saudi Arabia, Sweden, and Norway.
Well, that's true. But if you really think about it, when Abiy Ahmed came into power in 2018, he vowed to fight corruption and get those who were accused of human rights violation into account. And the TPLF was the governing party at the time. And the deep state of the TPLF actually ruled much of Ethiopia. And then it stood to reason at the time that they're the ones who were actually supposed to face the music. Given that fact, they then started to call for more autonomous powers in TPLF in order for them to be shielded from possible persecution. And then in the absence of democratic platforms like we have in South Africa, where you can go to courts, etc., to hold people to power. Ethiopia doesn't have that. So Abiy Ahmed had no choice but to intervene politically. And that's what he did. And the fight that we see at the moment is all but attempts by the TPLF to try to protect themselves from possible persecution. And we need to remember that because, after such a long time, the truth falls within the cracks. The trigger to this current standoff was as a result of the TPLF refusing actually to participate and cooperate with the national government. And then they went on to attack the positions of the Ethiopian National Defense Force, and that's what triggered the war. These are the people who are accused or stand accused of having been corrupt in the past, and these are the people who are accused of having violated a number of human rights, including jailing of journalists and killing of defending voices. So all what Abiy Ahmed was trying to do was trying to redress those past injustices, but they of course retaliated, and because they've had strong alliances in the past, particularly with countries like Sudan and the United States, they managed to call on those people to support and portray the current government as the one that's an aggressor.
Finally, we know that the U.S. Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, Jeffrey Feltman, was trying to broker some sort of a deal or to try to end the fighting during his visit last week to Addis Ababa. That didn't happen. Does that bode further bad news for the region?
Well, at the moment, we know that the government of Ethiopia is digging its heels in terms of negotiating with the TPLF. They've refused that. They've refused to negotiate with the TPLF. But there are moves afoot right now, both from the East African community and the Uganda country by itself and Kenya in trying to convince Abiy Ahmed to enter into negotiations. But as of yesterday, the government of Ethiopia has refused to participate in any negotiations with the TPLF and their new alliances. So we're back to square one, and we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. I mean, the march yesterday and the rally that was organized by the government in Addis Ababa, which was attended by thousands of people, to an extent emboldened the government of Ethiopia to continue on this trajectory of standing firm and maintaining the position that they'll fight. They've said, quote, they'll fight to the last drop of blood in order to push the TPLF out of its positions in Mekelle and northern parts of Ethiopia.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has told Ethiopians that they must be ready to make sacrifices to save the country from rebel forces. And obviously, his talk and his plea goes to the heart of the people because clearly they believe that these sacrifices are to be made to salvage Ethiopia. There's also the fear of if violence does escalate by the rebels, it could overspill into the neighboring countries. You'll have displacement of people, and it's going to take a while then to get back to the footing where Abiy Ahmed had actually started from, a safe footing of trying to bring the people together and get the country back on track.
Yes, that's true. I mean, if it does, it continues, and if TPLF somehow gets to be recognized, the precedents will be very dangerous because you have a lot of smaller parties that seek to create their own stands or countries within Ethiopia. So if you relent to one, chances are you're going to start having people from Ogaden coming in. You're going to start having other people from Oromia coming in. Also, all of them claiming to cede and gain more autonomous powers. So you can't afford to set that precedent. That's the first point. The second point is Ethiopia cannot afford to fail because Ethiopia is the police of the region, including the police of the Red Sea. Israel, because Ethiopia has played an important role in the AMISOM forces, which have, for the past couple of years, have managed to subdue the Al-Shabaab, who have been creating and disturbing the flow of goods on the Red Sea. And Ethiopia has played an important part, together with Djibouti, an important part in ensuring that there's that stability within the waters of the Red Sea leading to the Suez Canal. And so that's also a very, very important point to note, that if Ethiopia collapses, then you're going to have that. But the third and most important is that Addis Ababa is the seat of power for the African Union. At the moment in Ethiopia, you have hundreds of African diplomats who are positioned there. If you allow Ethiopia to collapse or allow the rebels to enter Addis Ababa, chances are you're going to endanger those number of African diplomats who are there. But the embarrassment also accompanying the move will be that AU will have to collapse. I mean, the most important marker of African progress will have to collapse because that country, the country that holds or that seat, was invaded by the rebels. So you can't afford to have that. So the African countries also need to get involved in this. They have got no choice. If you want to protect and maintain the African integrity and African, independence, the African Union is the only thing we have as Africans that is sacrosanct and must be protected. So it's going to lead to a situation where you have other African countries getting involved because they will have no choice but to protect this one state that Africa has and shares, which is the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa.
Worrying indeed. Thank you for talking to us. That was Ebrahim Fakude, Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues. Shukran very much for your time. Salamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
9:31 exactly.
These days, I'm more health conscious